He's Asia's fourth most powerful leader. He heads the world's largest Muslim nation, and on his agenda are talks with President Barack Obama.
The President of the Republic of Indonesia.
Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono this week had a warm-up for his meeting with America's president when he became only the fourth world leader to address both houses of the Australian Parliament, and sought to capitalise on his security forces' success in killing one of the world's most wanted terrorists, Dul Martin, an architect of the 2002 Bali bombings, which killed over 200 people.
Just yesterday, our police authorities raided an important terrorist cell in the suburb of Jakarta and put several terrorist operatives out of commission.
Colin Chapman welcoming you to Agenda with Roger Baker. The Indonesian archipelago, with 231 million people, forms the world's fourth largest country. Until relatively recently, it was seen as a segmented, chaotic and menacing military dictatorship, high up on everyone's worry list. But now a Muslim democracy, now a leader in forums like ASEAN and APEC, it's seen as both booming and benign.
Indonesia sits as really the most populous area. It sits at the most important geographic crossroads. It's the largest country in Southeast Asia, and it's the headquarters of ASEAN, and this gives Indonesia a very particularly important role in how the U.S. comes back into the area.
Indonesia has changed so much for the better in recent years. What are the problems, though, that remain?
Well, Indonesia has certainly seen a major transition from the time of the fall of Suharto, and there was a period in there where we were even uncertain whether the country would be able to hold together or whether it would fracture. Underneath Yudhoyono, he's managed to pull together the various pillars of Indonesian society and strengthen the country. There's still a lot of questions of weakness. It's still a very difficult country to manage. You have a lot of different ethnicities. They're spread over thousands of islands, and it's hard to hold together. His biggest challenge is going to be to balance between the centralized control and regional autonomy. And that's very important to maintaining this social balance in the country.
Given Indonesia's success this week in killing Dul Martin, one of the world's most wanted terrorists, on which the Americans had a $10 million bounty, do you think President Obama will now unlock the funds that have been frozen to fund Indonesia's special forces?
Even before this capture, there was a team from Kopassus that was in the United States in discussions with Washington on reopening training for Indonesian special forces. Again, this is something that the prior U.S. administration had tried and had to set aside. This administration is now trying it again, and they've got the State Department on board this time. So certainly the U.S. is heading in this direction.
What will other Asian leaders be thinking, particularly those in Beijing and Tokyo, as America warms up its relationship with Indonesia?
Japan is going to be looking at this, at least for now, in a very positive light. The Japanese have been looking for the U.S. to re-strengthen its position in and around the Strait of Malacca. Indonesia helps to build that kind of arc. The Chinese, however, view this almost in the same geographical way, but as somewhat of a tightening noose around China. So they see the United States in Afghanistan, in India, in Singapore, now in Indonesia. The U.S. works in the Philippines. It works with Thailand or Taiwan, on up through Japan. And from the Chinese perspective, this is the U.S. trying to strangle or contain or constrain the Chinese.
Now a quick look at other events on the agenda next week. The Thai capital Bangkok is not the place to be this weekend, unless you like mixing it with riot police, water cannons, tens of thousands of former Prime Minister Thaksin's supporters and traffic chaos. But Stratfor says the army stands behind the government, so a coup is unlikely. It'll be more orderly up in Beijing, where Britain's Foreign Secretary begins a 3-day visit, raising again the issue of the Chinese currency. On Tuesday, North Korea's number 2 official, Kim Jong-nam, is also in Beijing, and Greece is due to deliver its first report card on its deficit reduction programme to Brussels. St Patrick's Day will see both Irish leaders in Washington meeting President Barack Obama. OPEC meets on Thursday in Vienna, but no production changes are expected. Friday schedules the meeting of the so-called Middle East Quartet. That's the US, EU, Russia and the UN. Hillary Clinton will lead for America and also meet with President Dmitry Medvedev. That's Stratfor Agenda for this week. I'm Colin Chapman. Thanks for joining me.